What can we do on a day-to-day basis that's simple, understandable, not too freaky, not too weird, that can alter our energetic field daily? Music, scent, sound, light. And then I realized I could make perfume. Let's make beautiful bottles of perfume that are more than just a scent, but an energetic source.
What's the story behind that?
You know, there's amazing people who wear Witchy. I mean, Cynthia Erivo wore Witchy the entire time she was making Wicked. She's one of our best customers.
Not everybody has that. They're disconnected from their intuition. They're disconnected from their body. Any practical tips you have for people to start to be led by that gut feeling?
Definitely.
Yasmin, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited this is happening.
Me too.
I feel like, I've been cheering you on from the sidelines, from across the pond, and so proud of what you're doing. I'm just such a fan.
Oh, thank you. It makes me happy to hear that. And I love that you are enjoying the fragrances. I'm thrilled. When anyone connects with them and the intention of them, it blows my mind. It's everything.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to let's kind of set the stage of who you are and go way back in time as a child. And I heard that you had this sort of intuitive relationship with nature and the world around you. What was childhood like?
Yeah, well, I guess it sort of definitely is formed. It's definitely formed where I am today. I grew up in Australia, and I was always, I was always sort of seeing things and feeling things as a kid. I used to, I guess I've always been super intuitive. I would say I could say quite psychic. It's definitely something that I've wanted to develop and enhance in my life and look deeper into and expand the antenna that I believe that we all have. I think for whatever reason, I was born with that antenna a little bit open. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for that feeling. And like even when I was a kid, I used to wake up in the morning and see colored lights always flying around me. It was so beautiful. I wish I kept seeing them as I grew up. I think I stopped at the age of about 10 or 11. But beautiful. I'd wake up and see colored rectangular lights floating around my bedroom every day. And it's funny because I have two boys now, and both of them have seen the colors. My youngest one still sees the colors, and my older boy, who's 13, is like, I used to see the colors, but they're gone now. I'm like, yeah, me too. I think, I don't know, it's some sort of energy form. I don't totally understand what it is, auras, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, color and energy has just always been, it's always been there. It's always been my thing, and I can't even explain why.
Yeah. So when this happened as a kid, and you probably think, okay, everybody can see this. Do you remember the earlier times where you started to articulate to maybe your friends or family that this is what you saw, and were you shamed at all, or or supported?
I think that, I grew up, my family's Lebanese. My mom was always quite psychic as well. So she was always like, I had a dream about you last night, and I know what you did last week. And I'd be like, oh God, and she would know what I did because she dreamt it. So she was always super psychic. And we used to speak about that quite openly in my family. I had aunties, Arabic aunties, who would read coffee cups, and, so that environment definitely didn't, there was no shame around it. I know that, and a lot of my family members, cousins, we speak about it openly. I think I'm probably the one that's been the most interested in developing it further, and I guess building a career and life around it. I definitely, I feel that. Around
energy, how would you say? Like it's energy of some source, and there's so much exciting science and thought-provoking, I think, leaders within the space of energy medicine and resonance and frequency. For people that don't know what those terms mean, like what are we talking about? Because it does sound woo-woo, but there's actually compelling science being explored as well.
Yeah. It is woo-woo in a sense. Anything esoteric is. Things that we can't prove, can't see. When you can't see something, it's very hard to get it. And we are talking about energy work, working with something that is beyond what we can see and understand. But yeah, there is science around it. People understand Reiki and energetic healing, and there's now science that proves that Reiki does balance your nervous system. It does. I've always been super comfortable in that esoteric. I've always been very okay with the fact that I can't totally explain this, but I can trust my feeling, and my feeling and my body will tell me that this is right. I've always been able to trust my instincts, and I never really needed the science to tell me that this was something I was feeling. But I understand that for many people it's a bit strange, and even with my brand, I've always been super conscious with Vyrao that we don't freak people out by being too woo-woo. I mean, I'm 100% woo-woo. I'm totally, but we're always super careful. We're always
trying to moderate yourself for the masses. That's
I know,
funny.
totally. Yeah, but I think that
I love the fact that you said something that, because woo-woo is used as such a pejorative, but what I hear from you is such a confidence in, it is, and like reclaiming it. There's some things that are ineffable, and it's so hubris of modernity to assume that everything can be measured by our own metrics at this point in human history.
Totally, and you know what? We've got to also just have faith. Faith is such a beautiful term. We've got to have faith in things that are unknown and unseen. I think that we can. I think I've trusted it always. I'm so grateful for that I've had that from whatever reason since I was a child. I've never questioned that. I think that, our mind can take us to a certain point. It's a utensil that we use to get by and get things done. But it's the other part of us, the soul, the spirit, this thing that we can't explain, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. That has guided me in my life. When I have listened to that and less the mind, extraordinary things have happened, and I think that's where the magic is. It really is. It's like there's a point that your mind can take you to, but the other part, that source, is unlimited.
Yeah, beautifully said. So growing up in Australia, Lebanese family, did you grow up religious as well? Like, were you Christian, Muslim, or was it just...
We weren't religious. We were Christian, not super religious. We did churches at certain times, weddings, funerals, but very much a strong sense of community and beautiful. I mean, I live in London now, and I've been in London since I was 19, so it's like more of my life has been in London. I do miss that community and culture of beautiful Arabic people and the food and all of that. It's
chicken
magic.
Shawarma.
Yeah, all of it.
Chicken tawouk.
Yeah, totally. And just really good tabbouleh, which...
Yeah.
But no, not super religious, but I would say spiritual. I remember my grandmother, who was a big inspiration for me. She would talk about when her sister died when she was quite young, and she felt her spirit come through. And, those sorts of conversations were always had between us as family members. And again, it wasn't something that was frowned upon or not it was understood. It was accepted. Mm-hmm. It was accepted.
That's beautiful, because you can have sort of a safe space to talk about these, especially when you had these sort of intuitive, out-of-the-box experiences. It was nurtured and not shamed or shut down.
Yeah. I remember, I've had experiences with spirits that have come through to me as well. It doesn't always happen. I kind of wish it happened more. It happens when I'm, again, detached from my mind. If I go to a retreat, if I stop working and I really shut off, then I really do feel that. And definitely I've had spirits come through to me, people that I don't know who are connected to somebody I'm with. But I remember when my grandfather died, I felt his spirit come through into me, and it was quite intense. And I spoke to my grandmother about it. And again, she totally accepted it, and we had a little cry and a giggle about it, and it was beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell me about the inception of Vyrao. Like, what was the genesis behind it?
I would definitely say it's like my life's work. And I was in fashion for close to 28 years. I was in fashion, and I always say that my fashion career, I managed to be pretty successful in that career because I was using my intuition, this insight that we're talking about today. It's definitely what got me by. It's definitely what made my career what it was. And I was always just tuning into, this feels great. This new trend, this new designer, this thing, this feels right. I'm just going to go with this. It was less about logic. It was all about passion, instinct, 100%. And I was always, during that fashion career, I was always going off, and I was never going to fashion parties. I was like going off and doing retreats, learning, studying different forms of holistic well-being. I never wanted to become a practitioner. It was never my intention that one day I'd get a room and I would do Reiki, which I can, or do integrative quantum medicine, which I'm trained in, or, but I wanted to train in all these things, and I wanted to study and learn because I just wanted to tune in more. I wanted to feel more. I wanted to open up the antenna. I mean, for me, it's like accessing some sort of magic power that I believe we all have. So I always knew that I would at some point move away from this fashion world into this, let's call it a woo-woo world if we want. I knew that one day, let's call it that. And I knew that one day I would transition, and I didn't know when it was going to be. Was it going to be in my 60s? Was it going to be a healing center? Was I going to wear a caftan every day? I mean, I don't know, but it ended up being Vyrao. And what came to me was, okay, now it's time to do something that I really want to do. And I talk about energy all the time. Feel it, use it, work with it all the time.
Yeah.
And I realized that energy is the source of everything. So can I create an entire brand where the source of it is channeling energy? I was like, well, I mean, it kind of sounded like the biggest thing I've ever thought of it's like, if energy is the source of everything, then can that be the source of this entire thing? And then what is that? And that's really what came to me. And the minute I had that realization, Vyrao came to me like I describe it like a teapot pouring something into my brain of this, and it all just sort of came. And I realized that, well, maybe I could do scent. We could look at how do we amplify our energetic field? How can we do that on a day-to-day basis that isn't going to a Reiki healer? Or like, what can we really do? I like this idea of what can we do on a day-to-day basis that's simple, understandable, not too freaky, not too weird, that can alter our energetic field daily? Music, scent, sound, light, laughter, joy, all these good things. And I realized that through scent being one of the most powerful tools for shifting mood, emotion, therefore vibration. Yeah. And then I realized I could make perfume. Let's make perfume. Let's make beautiful bottles of perfume that are more than just a scent, but an energetic source.
Yeah, you really have done. It's a beautiful, like I call a lot of things that are from nature that are ineffable God art. And I think that you've created God art in this line. It really is that for me, because it's like there's so much depth and beautiful synergy about it. So like, what can we maybe frame this concept of scent? I mean, people know it intuitively, and I would love to discuss like the science and the spirituality of scent, how scent shifts our mood. What's going on there?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it has for thousands of years. I mean, when I realized that it was through scent we could instantly shift. I think it's definitely one of the senses and through I love this idea of healing through the senses, but scent. Instant shift. And there is science to back that up now. But of course, before I even understood there was the science, when I first set out to create the brand, every single fragrance that I made was chosen for how it makes, every single ingredient for every single fragrance was chosen for how it makes you feel. I'm trained in flower remedies and essences as well, so I understood a little bit about that, but also looking at the hundreds of years of rituals of how certain ingredients and plants and flowers had been used. I mean, it's all there. I didn't actually even really know when I was creating the brand that there was this loads of neuroscience evidence around ingredients and how they alter positive emotions in the brain, which we now use. So initially, yes, it was coming from more of a spiritual place, looking at energy, vibration, and looking at what I understood to really transform us. But now we also work with 40 years of neuroscience research. And I know that we work with a company called IFF. It's a phenomenal fragrance house in France, source the most beautiful, natural, incredible harvests and oils from around the world, but also work with clean synthetics there. They do things at an extraordinary level, making things at the highest level of fragrance. It's a beautiful process, but they've also done 40 years of research on this. And it wasn't at that point when I was creating Vyrae, not that many fragrance brands or perfumers were thinking about that in the way that I was. They weren't coming at it from a wellness aspect. So now we incorporate all of it and other magic things too in there.
Was it difficult, like when you had this teapot sort of download. Well, first of all, what kind of tea was it?
It was a herbal, I think. It was sort of, I don't know, something. It wasn't caffeinated. It was bliss. Yeah.
Rooibos. I'm thinking rooibos.
It was a rooibos with some milk and honey.
Truly English. English.
Yeah.
All right. So when this happened, did other people get it? Like, did the perfumer house, did Paris, IFF get what you were talking about, or did it take some convincing?
I was so nervous people would think I was just so weird. The first thing I did when it came to me, when the teapot was empty and it filled up my brain with this concept. There was two. I'm going to call them two witches that I contacted. The first was my energy worker, Louise Meter, who I've trained in her technique called Integrative Quantum Medicine, IQM. She's a master energist and healer. I called her to say, I've got this idea about energy through scent. What do you think? And we talked about certain things, and she told me about this particular crystal, the Herkimer diamond crystal, that we put into every single bottle, which we now do, that she charges. But the other person was the master perfumer. And the first master perfumer I used, I called her up. She's an icon of the perfume world. And again, I felt quite intimidated by that because I was in the fashion world, and it's a whole other world. And I just thought, God, is she going to think I'm totally weird? I'm going to her with this idea, and she's kind of major, and it was going to her with this idea of, would you make fragrances for me? Would you help me create this idea where, again, every single ingredient we choose is chosen not really for the scent profile itself first, but for the way that they make you feel. And can I give you a brief that is not, I want a woody scent, I want a flowery scent, which probably all perfume brands do, but I want a scent that will amplify the feeling of being empowered, courage, creativity, sensuality, liberation, transformation, protection, and that was my brief to her. And I was so nervous going to her, and I remember her eyes lit up, and she said to me, oh my God, I've never been briefed in this way before. This is incredible. And the minute she said that to me, I've got goosebumps now. The minute she said that to me, I remember thinking, maybe I'm onto something. Like, maybe it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I needed her approval almost to know that I could do this a little bit.
Her street cred and her, someone that, and then she got, and talk about synchronicity, because I'm assuming that probably is not, you could have easily, I hear this all the time from people that think outside the box and they try to a startup, people don't get it. And the fact that you found them so early on is a blessing. There's always these blessings, There's always these blessings of these people who appear, some you don't expect, who just turn up. I always think, it's not the things that you plan that it's the things that you don't that really end up being, oh my God, how about how that worked? I met that weird person at that time, and look what happened with that. They're the things that really are phenomenal. And I feel like there's been some amazing, magical people and experiences with this brand that I would never have expected. Yeah. Well, one of those people is a mutual friend of ours, our sweet GP, Gwyneth Paltrow. Where did Gwyneth come into this sort of story?
So the dream for me was to get to Gwyneth. Like, can I get the fragrances to her? Because of course I really presumed, I hoped that she would be someone that would like them. Being the sort of, I think she's a spiritual teacher on a mass level, Gwyneth. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
She really
I would
is.
agree with that.
She really is. And we had a mutual friend, a dear friend of mine, Patrick, who had worked for her and was dear friends with her. And he said to me, you know what, Yaz, he doesn't often do this because he had her contacts and, he's going to be protective of their relationship and her email. And, he's like, you know what, Yaz, this is so beautiful. I'm going to email her and I'm going to show this to her. I won't connect you with her because I don't want to connect her on email, but I'm going to send this to her. She got it. It resonated with her. I was just really fingers crossed. Does she like it? Can I send her something? Can she try it? We could probably be on Goop maybe. But I definitely just wanted to get to her. And, it was more than I expected. She's now a partner in the business. She is such a huge supporter in the brand. She's been an ambassador for us because she's there with me. She's been a phenomenal support, her and Moj. And again, it's beyond my expectations of what I was hoping with her. And she's taught me a lot, and she's just, she's incredible.
I mean, she's the real deal. I mean, I really is like. There's people out there that maybe are in the public eye, and maybe they're different than you think, or there's an image, and then there's who they are. But that's not the case for her. Like, she really lives and breathes all of this stuff, and she's just such a god. She's god art too. I mean, it's such a blessing.
She is, and she gives out so much. Her energy is incredible, and you know what she did. I always wanted to make the fragrances as good for you as we could do. And what we're always trying to do is we will constantly keep working on how we formulate, doing them at the highest level. Can we even work more on being cleaner? Can we, and the way that you look at clean now is like things are always changing. The rules are changing. We're learning more about ingredients. So the more we keep learning, the more if we find there's an ingredient that is not great, we will reformulate that fragrance. I think it's a constantly evolving process.
Yeah.
And she's the one who was, I had to work really hard on the fragrance, especially the most recent ones that are all on Goop. I mean, she has like 4,000 banned ingredients to get onto Goop because her clean standards are so high. And in the fragrance world, that's very difficult. So, and particularly on the last ones that are now, we've worked super hard on, and we're reformulating everything. It's all, there's so much thought and care that goes into it. And I remember I went to see her, and we were launching on Goop, and she said, thank you so much for working so hard to get these clean enough to get onto my site. And it took me like an extra year of development to do that. And of course I want to do it anyway, but it was a given for me. Once I'm learning, I want to do that. But she said something to me that was just really profound and simple that made me just realize. She said to me, because the thing is, our body just can't process that stuff. Mm-hmm. And when she said that, I was like, oh God, it's so obvious. Yeah, of course, of course we'll do everything at the best in the best way that we can. And we don't announce ourselves we're not like, oh, we're the clean brand. We talk it's more about energy, vibration, emotions, the neuroscience. There's so much in the message. I think that as any kind of brand that's launching today, you want to do the best you can in how you're creating things. And again, it's an ongoing process, and you have to keep working at it. Even like sustainability, you have to keep doing things at the best way you can to be as sustainable as possible. And you don't have to talk about it. Just keep trying and do the best you can.
Yeah, be it.
Yeah.
And it's just the ethos of who you are. And as time goes on, there's always new innovations and improvements on how could do things better with time and accessibility and development. So let's talk about this 4,000 ingredients. Like, what is in the beauty or the fragrance world specifically? Like, what are the things that are in the conventional perfumes that people are using it's not in Vyrao?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's so complicated. I feel like there's so much, and it isn't constant. The goalpost is always moving. I think it's important to look at. It's not always about natural. So we are highly natural. Some of our fragrances are 93, 94, 98% natural, and some people are like, oh, does it need to be 100% natural to be good? I don't believe so. We can use synthetics that are clean, that are good for you, and sometimes the natural can irritate, and also sustainably can be over-farmed. So there'll be certain plants and flowers that we use a synthetic version that's clean synthetic, but because that plant is over-farmed and not sustainable to use. So it's complicated, and every fragrance has so many ingredients. And there's so many plants and flowers that we use. And we also use something called living technology, which kind of blows my mind, whereas we could capture the scent of anything. You can capture the scent of anything that you want through a synthetic form that can still be clean. But if you want to capture the smell of, I don't know, my hair today with this jumper and this mug, whatever it might be, you can capture it, almost take a photograph of the scent and mimic it through other ingredients. The process of making fragrance is deeply creative, and it's incredible.
That is beautiful. So can we go through the line, like at least some key players in the line? It's probably like picking children. You can't pick a favorite one, but can we go through some of them, like Mama Juju? Can we start there? Like, how would you describe it? The science, the intention, the spirituality behind it, the layers of Mama Juju.
Mama Juju is the most recent fragrance that we launched. It's our newest scent. We call it a neuroscent. It's kind of it's like neuroscience back. This one is it's definitely going to help you feel relaxed. It's grounding and awareness. This is the one, Mama Juju, and the name comes from Mother Earth's energy. And this is the one that literally feels like you are sticking your head in the soil of deep, sweet earth. and I wanted
Yeah.
I wanted a grounding scent. I think we all
I
need
felt
that.
it's almost like after a rain, like a summer's rain. It's that energy when you put it on. Like you feel like, oh, it's this fresh earth in a way.
Yeah, well, it has. I was talking about this living technology that we use. So it has living technology of the smell of red clay, the smell of clay, and it also has petrichor, like that smell of rain on earth that is incorporated into that scent. It's incredibly clean, goop level of clean. It's deep and rich and earthy. Our scents are all genderless. I was worried the name Mama Juju might mean that guys would be like, is that from my mom or is that for where? It's not. I mean,
No, I got it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
in
got it.
wellness.
You
I'm in
got
wellness,
it.
so I did get it. Yeah.
No, it's
I mean,
magical. Yeah, it's beautiful, that scent. It's kind of, people are going crazy for it. People message me saying, I'm going feral for this fragrance. People love it. Yeah.
And Moj is always on Instagram. She's spreading all over the place, though.
Yeah, Moshe's obsessed with that one. I think
Yeah.
we all are. It's great. It's great, and it is that kind of, I say this. People say to me, "Oh, how is this all? How is this wellness? Like, why are you in the well-being world?" And I always say that, that little moment where you, let's say, choose that fragrance on that day, and it's Mama Juju, and you know that it's for grounding, awareness, relaxation, calm, balance, and you spray that scent, and it's like, I don't know, 14 seconds where you are inhaling and smelling. Maybe it's 7 seconds, who knows? But that little moment where you're reminded, grounding, awareness, relaxation, you smell the memory of the scent, the way that it makes you feel. I think that is profoundly good for you. I think it sets you up for the day. I think it sets an intention. And I think it's incredible for you, And again, it's simple. You don't have to go and do a half-an-hour meditation. I know we can't always do that, or go and see somebody, or go and do the yoga class. It's just that little brief moment, that spritz that takes you there and reminds you. It's incredibly good for you.
Yeah. Let's talk about the crystal. You mentioned the charged crystal that's in the bottle. What's the story behind that?
So I wasn't like I love crystals. I think you've got some crystals behind you there. I can see.
Yeah, I have some.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep.
I mean, I love crystals, but I'm not a crystal expert. It wasn't something that I'm like trained in, or but I do love crystals. I feel crystals. They're so beautiful, and I understand they're conduits for energy. So Louise Meter, who is my teacher, who I've trained with in her healing technique, IQM, when I went to her with this concept, I was like, how can I make these fragrances more than just a fragrance? Yes, more of an energetic tool. And I said, plants, flowers, yes, we can do that. And plants and flowers hold extraordinary vibration. The colors of the bottles, yes, we can do that. The intention, the names, everything. Of course, the scent profile. But she was like, I've been working with these Herkimer diamond crystals. And I know that Herkimer diamonds, if you are in the crystal world, you do know what a Herkimer diamond is. Known as one of the most powerful quartz crystals on earth, come from Herkimer, New York State. They're like tiny little diamonds. They look like 2 or 3 carat diamonds. And she said to me, I have been working with these crystals for the last 10, 15 years, and I feel that their energy is extraordinary. They can charge up crystals around you. They never lose their charge, even in the smallest form. And she's like, I can take these crystals, I can charge them with chant, prayer, energy. And why don't we put one in every single bottle? And we do that, actually. And a lot of people don't even know that there's a crystal floating around in the bottle. And I'm always sometimes a bit like, this guy who's coming to buy this fragrance, I don't think he's into crystals, so we just won't mention it. But, there's always but then some people roll their eyes, but most people are like, oh my God, yes. But it's in there. They're in there. They're floating around in each bottle. Is floating around.
Every day I put it on, I kind of roll the bottle around because I appreciate it. I appreciate the intention behind it.
Yeah.
It's a small thing, but it's a really intentional, another God art thing to me. Like it's like you're bringing nature into the product.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, it's small, but small can also be very significant.
Yeah. For sure. Go to Witchy Woo. It's another one that people love. What's the story behind that?
Witchy Woo is Witchy Woo is amazing. I remember when I was naming that fragrance, I smelt it. I have this, I guess, when I smell things, I can see colors, So I was smelling that scent before it was named, before the bottle was designed, and this is the one that was about empowerment. was an empowering scent. And all the ingredients were there to help you feel that way. It's also a very creative scent. So we say it's about courage and creativity. I think courage was a nicer word than empowerment, a bit less used, and I think it's beautiful. And it's a magical fragrance. I called it Witchy Woo, and I had lots of friends saying to me, this is 5 years ago, you can't call it Witchy Woo. I'm like, I can call it Witchy Woo. And of course, it's the most Googled of all our fragrances because it's called Witchy Woo. But it's incredible. It's like orris rose, nutmeg, cinnamon, violet leaf. It's like a witch's brew. It's really opulent, velvety, and magical. And people adore it. I adore it. I wear it so much. And it has definitely been one of the ones that has defined the brand. And I think, there's amazing people who wear Witchy Woo. I mean, Cynthia Erivo wore Witchy Woo the entire time she was making Wicked. And
wow.
And she's a great friend of the brand. She's one of our best customers, and she would shop, and she would buy witchy fragrance, witchy candle, witchy incense in bulk. And she's posted and said, this is what I wore, and she still wears it. And I think that's just I couldn't be any more perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah. I mean, with Wicked coming out and all of that, that is a beautiful,
I know.
It's synchronistic.
Perfect. I mean, I wish, obviously, we're not a big brand, so I couldn't quite get her for a campaign, but she did wear it, and she does.
Yeah.
And it's
the best. It's the best kind of campaign because it's organic and real, and it's what she's using.
It's true. And the term witchy, people are sometimes a bit like, when I talk about witchy, someone being a bit witchy woo, like people who are feeling things, tapping into something else, I'm definitely not referring to casting spells. That's not what I'm talking about.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Can we go deeper there? Because it's a term that can be scary for some people. We're talking about black magic, or that's not what we're talking about. If anything, it's earth medicine. It's people were called witches throughout human history. Whenever you talked about the earth and natural medicines and herbs, they were burned. Thousands and thousands of women, largely, were burned at the stake for being healers and being midwives. Right? I mean, you're reclaiming that word too.
I think so. I mean, I must have been one of those witches at some point. But it's a word. I mean, people don't question it so much now, but people connect it with that. Definitely, this is not about black magic. There's nothing dark to the kind of witchiness I'm talking about. I'm really talking about intuition. I'm talking about coming from that other place. It's a magical place. So it's, and I think when you're a bit witchy woo, it's great. It's great to be a bit witchy woo.
Okay, let's talk about the 6.
Oh.
The 6. What's the T on the 6?
I think the 6 is a masterpiece. I mean, I can say that because it's my brand. But the 6th, so I launched 5 fragrances when we launched the brand a couple of years ago. We launched close to 4 years ago. I launched with 5. But I always knew that the next one I would make would be the 6th. Mm-hmm. I knew that it would be the one that was the psychic scent. It would be one that opened up the 6th sense. And I wanted it to open up your intuition. So I set about to create that scent. And it was a really magical process, actually. That's when IFF, the fragrance house, approached me and said, hey, we've just seen what you've done, and with all these scents and these emotions and everything else, do you know that we've got this 40 years of science research, and we can prove mindfulness? And I was like, I need that for the 6th. So that was perfect. And then what I did with that fragrance, I did something a little different. I called my psychic. I called up my incredible psychic, Kat Hall. She's based in Florida. She's now one of my dearest friends, also a partner in my company. So is my energist. It's a whole bunch of witches coming together. I called up Kat about this scent that I want to create. And, she'd always talk to me about scent and the kind of things that she used, ingredients that she used to open up her channel of intuition. And she said to me, Yaz, I use things like peppermint, holy basil, fennel. Like, they're not things like, maybe you think like frankincense. You think about these old world churchy notes. She wasn't referring to that. She was like, it's got to be uplifting. She said apple, So I was like, Kat, let's do this together. So we incorporated those notes into the 6th. Then Maeve McCurtain came to me, and she came to me like an angel from somewhere else. And she was the master perfumer who approached me to do the 6th because she was like, I've got to do this fragrance. And she'd worked with She's incredible. I do everything with her now, and she'd worked with in Gleistel Abbey in Ireland with monks who trained her on certain herbs for premeditation: wormwood oil, gentian root, these sort of bitter herbs. So she brought together the scent with Kat's ideas, with what she brought together, and this fragrance is just extraordinary, and it is neuroscience backed for mindfulness. I believe. We can't prove it. We'll open up your intuition. There's no science on intuition yet. But yes. I think if you're mindful, you're going to be more intuitive. And it's really been it was an amazing creation process. Gwyneth is a huge fan, and it's been an amazing scent for us. People are obsessed with it, and they say it doesn't smell like anything they've ever smelled before.
That's beautiful. The stories behind these are so like magical. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't plan on doing this, but I love hearing your sort of the behind the scenes of all of this stuff. Can we talk about Georgette? Like, what's the story behind that?
Oh. Well, that's named after my grandmother. So yeah, she was a huge inspiration for me, and I grew up with her. I lived with her a lot of my childhood, so I was at her home. Most of the good times of my childhood were with her, and she was she inspired me in many, many ways. That woman, feminine energy, loving, and she spent her whole life making Lebanese food and looking after her 10 grandchildren. And soft, loving, kind, never lost her temper. I don't know how she did that. She was quite extraordinary. But also the most resilient, the most powerful, the most strong underneath, and I thought a lot about her when I was making this scent. It's the rose scent. I used to pick roses with her. She used to smell the roses in her garden, and she used to lay them around her house, and she was just the most angelic, incredible woman, and her whole life was just about cooking and family and love. She never went on an airplane. She never did anything. She was just so happy in her life. She's inspired me greatly in so many ways. So when I was making the rose fragrance, and rose is an interesting one. I've been told that a rose has the highest vibration of any plant or flower. It makes sense, right? It's the flower of love. It's powerful, the rose. It's also tough. It's got the thorns. It's not all soft and powdery, So I was thinking about her. She was the inspiration, soft, beautiful, kind, womanly, feminine, but underneath almost the androgyny, of like, it could be a rose, but maybe it's a bit tough, So I created this scent with her in my mind. I called it Georgette. Her name was Georgette. It's a beautiful name. And it's rose with tobacco and violet leaf and guaiac wood. So it's this sort of like tougher androgynous rose. And we say this one is really about opening up your heart. It's the scent for self-love and self-compassion. And, I did this little campaign / study when I first launched the brand. And I got maybe 20 people that I barely knew, friends of friends, to all come and sit in my little garden in London. And I got them all to smell the first 5 fragrances, not tell them what the emotions were about. I didn't say this is the one for creativity and sensuality. It was just like, smell them. We're going to film you and tell us what you feel. And with Georgette, I think maybe 17 out of the 20 people referenced their heart, put their hand on their heart. There was, in some way, one person said they felt a mother's love. Somebody who I know was going through quite a hard breakup got super teary. Like, the amount of heart references that came totally organically when they smelled that fragrance, it was beautiful.
Mission complete.
Mission complete.
Yeah. What you have learned, probably immersed yourself, the training even before Vyrao in energy medicine, and then in flower, you mentioned flower herbalism, essences. Of all the things you've explored and studied, what's some of your favorite for you personally? Some specific plant or herb or scent? What are you drawn to the most personally?
Do you know the things? Well, the thing that I'm probably most drawn to is probably the psychic stuff, to be honest. I did a retreat one time. I always knew that the psychic thing was there. I always knew that I could tap into that. I think the ability to connect with spirit was something I kind of, I didn't really think about it so much. But when I did this retreat, I did it it was before I had my first son, so maybe 15 years ago. that really changed me, because on this retreat it was open up your psychic abilities and sort of maybe connect with spirits. And this is two different things. It's two different abilities. To feel something intuitively and be psychic and predict something is different to connecting with spirit. So I didn't really think that what would happen for me on that retreat. And it really did change me. And there were, somebody came through to me on that retreat who was a woman that I didn't know. We sat together and we were doing this training, and the woman told us how to do it. And somebody came through to me that was one of her loved ones who'd passed, with clear messages. I saw him, I felt him. I can still feel him and see him right now if I think about it. I feel like I know him. And I think that's been the most extraordinary thing. I wish it could happen more. It's happened a few times since, but and that just reminds me that there's so much more to everything that we see and do every day, and we can tap into other things. And I think that's been the most.
It's like, well, it's that sixth sense that you talked about, right?
Yeah, it's a sixth sense.
We all have it.
Yeah.
So if you what I love about the way that you made the line, and the would you say your instructions are for people to have several there, and they're there for specific mood purposes. So versus traditional fragrances, maybe people have one that they like, and maybe even with Vyrao, people have their favorites. But that's, from a therapeutic standpoint, that's really not what you want. You want people to explore these other ones for different seasons or times or days of their life, right?
Totally. When I was making them, I think traditionally fragrance has been used like you choose a fragrance and you wear it every day and people know that's your fragrance. And maybe it's also been marketed to wear for other people. I'm going to wear this and I'm going to attract the guy, or vice versa. These are definitely scents that you wear. I made them as scents you wear for yourself. And I definitely didn't create the products as, I think this is going to be the number one, and this is going to be the one that I build the business on. I wasn't thinking like that. They're definitely for a different intention. And what I've noticed, this is how I made them, is that people tend to have more than one eventually. Once they start to love, you've got a couple, you try them at different times, and you use them for different reasons and different times. In the morning, what do I feel? And I also think that moment where you tune into what you need is also really good for you. That's a moment of consciousness. Okay, I'm getting ready for work. I've got one or two here. Obviously I've got all of them, so I can go. Okay, you have
the hookup.
I've got it. What do I need today? What am I feeling? What am I not feeling? You know what? I'm feeling a little low energy. I feel like I had a hard day yesterday. Yesterday was intense. I need a fresh new start. So I can go to I Am Verdant, the one for transformation. It's like the scent of new beginnings. It's green and fresh, and I spray that scent and I feel transformed. And then maybe at the end of the day, if I'm going out or doing something, I'll spray Witchy Woo because I want to feel, and they're definitely for different moods, different times. We sell lots of like sets and things because people do tend to want more than one, and pretty much like the customers coming back to us, they're coming back and they're buying different ones, and they're telling us how they're all making them feel at different times.
Well, it's like an apothecary, right? It's like an apothecary of scents is really what it's like.
Yeah, I have one that's Magnetic 70, which is incredible. That's protection and attraction.
Tell me about it.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's I think it's like wearing a power suit. The whole time I was like raising money for my business and having all these really intense, intimidating meetings with investors, I would cover myself in that fragrance. And it definitely, I felt like it cleared my anxiety, but it did give me this feeling of orb of protection around me.
What are the ingredients? What are some of the ingredients?
It's traditionally quite masculine, powerful, and this is it's frankincense, vetiver, cedarwood, elemi, angelica seed. It is, it's powerful, sophisticated, and beautiful. People are crazy for that one, and it's one of those ones I can never travel without that fragrance with me.
It's awesome. You have some big names as far as investors are concerned. Estee Lauder, right? I mean, how did that come about?
I have no idea. No, I was feel very, very fortunate. Very fortunate in the people, like even with Gwyneth and Estee Lauder, and I also have El Cataton, these incredible people who are partners in my company. I'm still the majority owner of my business, but these people are here with me and behind me and supporting me and supporting what I'm doing. And I'm astounded actually that that they're on board in many ways. And it's always been a sort of, I talk about these things that are a little esoteric, and I'm talking about spirituality. This doesn't traditionally go with business. They're two very different, polar opposite things. But thankfully, I think that it resonated with them. I think they knew I was coming from a completely authentic place. I think that they loved the product. I just feel that, I feel they've been amazing partners. Or the partners have been amazing. And Estee Lauder came on board as a minority investor a year and a half after I launched the business. So we were super young,
Wow.
But they generally felt that this was a movement. It's kind of a new genre, I guess, in how we look at scent and how we look at wellness. It's a kind of a wellness and coming together, We're not traditionally wellness. We're not traditionally fragrance. We're this new genre. And I think that they really believed in that. And I am so grateful.
It is a new genre. It is, absolutely. How would you describe it? Would it be functional scents? I mean, how would you articulate it?
Yeah, people say functional. I mean, it's not a new genre. You talk about aromatherapy. People know aromatherapy.
True.
It's like the people
True.
totally get that. Oh, lavender and calm.
Yeah,
We got that. But in the sort of fragrance world, it's definitely a new genre. People are calling what we're doing now functional fragrances. People talk a lot about mood boosting. I didn't realize when I was launching this brand. We were definitely kind of at the forefront of this new vision. I didn't think this would be a trend. I think that the reason the investors came on board is because they saw this as a potential new trend. It is now something that I'm seeing in so many brands. And I'm blown away by that, because I generally thought people wouldn't understand what I was doing. They wouldn't connect the idea of a perfume and wellness coming together, that people would not make that connection unless we had a supplement as well, but they have. It's neurosense, functional sense, We don't always refer to ourselves that way because we want to talk a bit more about the energetic part, but
Right.
But we're seeing it a lot, and there's many more brands talking about this, and the language is out there now. So I'm not just the weird one anymore. I'm not. Just
they're coming up.
Yeah.
So, do you feel? It seems like Estee Lauder, a year and a half in, understood it. Like there was no convincing involved. They just kind of got it.
I mean, there was convincing. I had to do a lot of meetings. I had to present a lot of stuff, and I had to put together presentations, and I had to. They had to also know that I could obviously run a company, and that's also an interesting thing. Like, I lead with intuition. I'd say that the brain comes second to my gut, and again, when you're running a company, you have to sort of work out where are you using what. So they had to know that I could build something. I think I'm quite good, again, using my intuition to employ the right people, make the right choices. I think that the vision of what products, we've got lots of products coming, amazing things coming over the next few years. I think that also people are falling in love with the concept. There are people who are really, resonating with the concept and the products and what we're doing. And I think... But yeah, it still took some convincing. I mean, it's
okay. Yeah. Keeping it real. I love that.
Totally.
This is more of a question I'm thinking of the listener out there. Yes, they're all interested in wellness that listen to the podcast, but we have a lot of entrepreneurs and founders, or people that want to have an entrepreneurial spirit. As a founder, was that difficult? You obviously are in touch with your intuition, so maybe the answer is no, but I'm curious as to, when you bring on investors, this is your baby. How do you know, what gave you that wisdom to say, you know what, no, I'm going to take it to the new levels by giving up some of my business?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had to. I couldn't do it all myself. These sorts of
Got
businesses, they're costly. It's not like I could fund everything on my own. I couldn't. I knew I had to find investors, and it's a hard process. I think I've been fortunate to have, they were both, Estee was a woman who led that. El Caston, it's a woman who leads that division, who I work with. I think they felt it and they connected with me. But of course, it's difficult because you could easily get the wrong people. And they're just looking at a spreadsheet. And perhaps they're not going to give it enough time to build and grow in the right way. And it's very hard. And, I had a business when I was really young. When I was 22, I opened up my first store. I opened up a boutique in London, and I took on not the right business partner. And I learned from that. I ended up losing my store. I was just a kid, but I remember how devastating it was. And I didn't listen to my intuition on that. I knew it wasn't quite right, but I was kind of slightly like, I've got to do this, and how am I going, and I based that choice on fear, which quite often doesn't work. And I think so now, the people that have come on board, when I met both of them, like when I met the Estee guys and I met the Alcataton guys, the other big investors, and when I met them, my body just said yes.
Got it.
And they did.
So you were talking about intuition, and even hearing that story when you were younger of, we don't always get it right. We don't always follow our gut feelings. And you kind of saw that discord and misalignment maybe. So practical tips for people, like what have you learned as someone that really has been governed by this intuition and a strong sense of it throughout your life? Not everybody has that. They're disconnected from their intuition. They're disconnected from their body. Any practical tips you have for people to start to be led by that gut feeling?
Definitely. Do you know, before I answer that, I want to say that I never realized that not everybody... not everyone, people don't always trust it or don't even feel it. And I remember one of my really old friends, she came to my house like a year or two ago, and she was saying to me, Yaz, I've never understood when you've talked about intuition. I've never really understood you. I've never got it. I've never felt anything. But I just was seeing this guy. She was talking about this guy she was seeing. And she was like, we were in this great relationship, but I was sitting there at home one day and something told me to check his phone. She was like, something from somewhere else said, and it wasn't like the relationship was bad, everything was great, we're all loved up, but there was something that came to me, and she did check his phone. You could say it's unethical or not, let's different discussion, but hence, she realized that perhaps he wasn't the right person. And she goes, you came into my mind when that happened, because I realized that everything you've talked about, I've never understood it until that moment. And I was kind of like, my mind was blown. I was like, what, you don't feel things and act on them all the time? Not everyone does that. So maybe I take it for granted, but I guess for people who don't, you have to really, you just have to remember that our mind and our thoughts are separate to us. And if you can take a little breath and step away from the incessant, constant thinking, and I always imagine it as my brain's doing something, my brain's got many thoughts and all sorts of things and worries and happenings going on, but underneath my brain is somewhere in my soul, heart, somewhere in my chest is this other part of me, this soul part of me, spirit part of me, I don't know what you want to call it, the source, the real part of me. It's separate to the brain, it's bigger than the brain. This is where that comes from. And if you can somehow work out in your own way how to access that, whether it's meditation, might help, but that can scare people too, or just sitting for a minute. I think sometimes you can just sit and look at birds flying in the sky for a second. Like that, if you just watch the birds flying or trees blowing in the wind, it puts you into the present moment. You're probably not going to be in thought for a second or a few, and that will help you hear that voice, because that voice is going to come to you more likely in those times when you can detach and separate from that. Anyone who meditates talks about that. It's transcending, but you don't have to be a meditator to do it. I think you can find your own way. Some people say it's when I exercise and it's the end of my workout and I take a few breaths, I feel something. Some people say it's that little bit of time before I go to sleep. The mind's probably starting to shut down. Something comes, a feeling comes, something tells you something. We've just all got to find our way of accessing the part of yourself that sits under the mind.
Yeah, beautifully said. Because it's we need to find our own anchor to the present moment, right? And still that sort of ruminating thoughts, and what's that still small voice that's ineffable but guides us, right? So those are great tips. Like nature's a great one. The research around Shinrin Yoku and forest bathing and using nature as a meditation and present moment awareness through that process, breath work, meditation.
Yeah,
Like,
breath work. I mean,
yeah.
it's, take 5 breaths, take box breaths, 3 times in a row. I always think about this, but like I have a natural tendency to be kind of like high energy, which could mean I could get easily quite manic, which a lot of us can. That's terribly not great for us, and I think that we've also got to remember. I've also got to always remember that I could be running around trying to do a million things, and in my mind, I'm like, I've got to get to the yoga class, right? If I'm rushing, panicking to get to the yoga class, the purpose is gone. We have to sort of, sometimes now what I do is I try to have an anti-manic day, and I have these days where kids to school, go to work, loads of meetings, run around, try and do exercise. Can I meditate? Can I do that? And the pressure is on. So I'll look at my day and I'll be like, right, what am I going to take out so I don't have to feel that feeling of manicness? And if I don't do the exercise and I only close my eyes for 3 minutes and take a few deep breaths and I take that pressure off, it's way better for me than rushing to get to the yoga class. So I think that we need to remember that. I think we do so much. So sometimes just do less and we'll be better off.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not the next thing. It's just being consistent with what you already have and kind of healthy boundaries with yourself, right? Wherever you can, to create margin in your life. Because distraction and numbing and go, it's actually makes it more difficult to check in. And I know not everybody has that grace and privilege, but wherever we can, even the small things, the body and the spirit is amazingly resilient, right?
Yeah, and there's also ways that we can tap into energy day to day. I mean, I always think the food we eat, I believe that no one wants to eat Michelin star food from an angry chef. I don't think that food's going to be great. I don't care what is in there and how fancy the chef is or the restaurant. If that person is angry, I think energetically we feel it. I would rather, I think it's way better for us to have something that's nourishing and made with love. Maybe there's music playing, there's joy while it's being cooked. It's so much better for you. And that's a way to, I think about that all the time. I play music when I cook, and I'm mindful when I cook of what I'm making. And even if it's maybe not even the healthiest ingredients, but it's made with the intention and good energy, I believe it'll be good for you.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said to that on probably many levels that we can't even quantify as far as science is concerned and the mechanism. But there's something to be said about vagal tone, and that's the largest cranial nerve in the body for people that don't, and being in that more of that parasympathetic resting, digesting state. And like you're saying, scent, sound, space, stillness, the resonance of the energy in which you eat the food is a factor into how your body metabolizes that food. I hear telehealth patients, a lot of people anecdotally, when they're in Europe or other parts of the world, they can eat. And I wonder, well, yes, maybe it's the fact that there's less GMOs in the other country, maybe there's less herbicides and pesticides, but is it also, could a component of this be you're less stressed when you're traveling?
You're just happy. You're on holiday.
Yeah.
I believe 100%. 100%. I mean,
how many increased times, resilience.
Totally. And how many times are you unconsciously eating at work or, those things. And I always think if you're unconsciously eating at your desk, even if it's like full of nutrients, did you actually get the nutrients?
Yeah.
Do
what's the bioavailability of it when you're stressed out?
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Totally.
I could keep talking to you all day long. This has been such a blessing. Before we go, the podcast, it's called The Art of Being Well. At the end of the episodes, we have Your Art of Being Well. First question is, what's the worst tasting healthy food that you eat? It tastes freaking disgusting, but you eat it for its health benefits. Do you have a food that checks those boxes?
I hate spirulina. That's gross.
How do you take it when you take it?
If I have like a multi-green powder, and there's anything a bit seaweedy, I really don't like. I'm not. But I know it's great, and I try to get green powders that are not high dose on the spirulina because I can't handle it. But I tend to everything I take I quite like. I don't drink coffee anymore, which is nice. I drink ceremonial grade cacao every morning, and I just feel
fun,
amazing, amazing. When I
how are you making the ceremonial grade cacao?
I get this cacao. It's called Keith's cacao, from Guatemala. And I get it in London, but I'm sure you can get it anywhere. I think I've Googled, I mean, he's around, Keith's Cacao. It comes in like
Keith's around.
It's like a block of cacao. And he says, 28 grams. I actually measure it every day. I like the ritual of measuring it in the morning with like 100 mils of water, 100 mils of plant milk, a little bit of maple syrup. I just boil it up for a second. And don't boil it, actually just heat it up. And I drink it every morning. And I swear to God, my heart, my cardiovascular system, everything just feels, it's not like a high caffeine-y feeling, which I know is going to give you a dip, which we can easily get addicted to. This gives me this feeling of abundance and happiness and joy that I can't go back. I'm obsessed with the ritual. So I try to stick with things that are good for you that I also enjoy. The only one is the spirulina. I don't like that one.
No, there's a lesson in what you just said. I mean, what are things that love you back that you also love? And there's beauty in that.
What are things
Yeah, well, that cacao is for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Next question is, do you take supplements? And if so, what are two like out of the box, lesser known, interesting things that most people don't know about?
I feel like I'm not sure if I'm doing anything that people don't. Well, you would know about everything. I've been doing IVs of NAD+. People know about that, though, right?
But no, that's interesting though.
Yeah.
It's not talked about a lot.
Yeah, I've been doing that on and off for the last couple of years. In fact, I just recently sort of got topped up again on NAD, and I do feel kind of great when I do it. I feel like weird things. I don't know if this is a placebo or not, but obviously, like, I'm getting older, my eyesight's deteriorating. I notice it. But when I have the NAD injections, it sort of feels like it stops deteriorating. I don't know.
Mitochondrial function, I mean, it makes sense.
Yes.
It does make sense. Yeah. Get them giving. And you could take NAD or NR or NMN, like some precursor to NAD, like on a daily basis orally. I don't know if you do that or not. But
Yeah. I've done it mainly with IVs, and I have like home injections that I've been doing. And I know people are talking about that in the wellness world. It's something, but it's on a mass level, obviously not. But that's something that I've been doing. But everything else that I'm taking is things that I just know really work. Very obvious things. Magnesium, which is also in my cacao. Lots of magnesium in my cacao. Vitamin D, vitamin B, things like that. I have been taking colostrum. I've been taking beef colostrum, only because I went into Irwan and I get all excited, because I'm in LA, because I live in London, and I walk into Irwan and I'm like, what's happening in Irwan? And I'm like a total loser who gets sold the hot new thing.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Same way. Just sell me.
Totally.
Please sell me something, Irwan.
And there was the colostrum people ready to sell me and I was like, oh my God, really? So I've been taking that. And look, I have to say I've been feeling super well. And sometimes if I'm doing, the cacao has probably made a difference. The lack of caffeine has probably made a difference for me. Combined with those things. So colostrum and NAD I've been on lately, and they're pretty weird. Come on, they're pretty weird.
They're good answer.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest or most out of the box, even controversial thing that you've done for your wellness that you're willing to admit on a podcast?
I mean, it's probably more the sort of spiritual stuff, really. I think, I've connected with past lives. I've, done rebirthing, I think those sort of things are probably the weirdest things for most people.
Yeah.
That's, I could go into some really weird stories and people are going to say this girl is like, she's off her head. I think that
briefly, what did you learn about any past lives?
Well, Egypt keeps coming up whenever I've done something on past lives. So apparently I was there doing stuff creatively somewhere in Egypt. But I also had an experience with an amazing healer, and I felt some, I've had experiences where I felt tingling energy through my body, like literally a physical reaction that you cannot deny. And it feels like when I've worked with these, it's happened to me twice, doing a rebirthing session in Melbourne, in Australia, and past life work with a phenomenal energy healer in Thailand. And in both of these experiences, I felt the insane amounts of energy and vibration tingling under every single part of my skin. Kind of feels like pins and needles times 10 under my skin, going through my body. And I felt that for probably an hour and a half of each of those sessions. And in one of those sessions, he was connecting me with a past life, and I felt some being's fingers touch my fingers. Like I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. So I think that's the weirdest stuff that happens to me.
That's
I
a
could
good
keep
answer.
going on. I could keep going on, but I feel like I'm going to scare people off with that.
No, this is a safe place. People aren't going to judge here. The Art of Being Well family.
I'm with you.
Diversity of thought is a good thing. It's a good thing. People can have different paths. Different paths for different people.
I didn't go into this with the investor meetings. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't in my pitch deck when I was.
Estee Lauder high.
Yeah. I didn't lead with that.
Want to talk about past life regression?
I didn't lead with that.
Oh, that's funny.
I didn't.
What's a book that you've read? It could be a fiction book, nonfiction, but I'm getting like a running Art of Being Well book club. What should I add to the list?
Oh gosh, there's been many books that have altered me. I'm going to say a really obvious one that I think just changed me forever. I'm going to go back to one of the originals, which is Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. I read it when I was 20. So I was young, and I think it just really opened me up to so many things. Obviously, there's been many books I've read, sort of self-help, self-healing, spirituality books I've read since then, but I can't. That book and her. Also, Conversations with God was another one that I read around that time too, which again was super inspiring, and I always feel like I go back to them. Those ones have stayed with me. They've stayed with me because I think they had the biggest shift on me.
Impact.
Yeah, the biggest impact. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that answer. My friend, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Honestly, busy trip to New York. You're coming to hang out with little old me. I appreciate it. Where do people go? Tell the people where they go to learn about your work.
I think maybe our website is great. If you go to Vyrao.com, I think then you can see everything there. You can experience, you can read about what we're doing. You can read about the ingredients and the intentions. Have a look and see if anything resonates. See if anything resonates with you.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I mean, the website is beautiful too. I mean, everything. I mean, start to finish, it's such a cool experience as a user. Before you go, I have to ask one more question. I meant to ask you this. Where did the name Vyrao come from? What was the origin of it?
Yeah, Vyrao. I mean, people can't really, it's spelled Vyrao, and a lot of people like Vyrao. I say really weird things with it. The name doesn't stick with people, but I quite like that. I think it's quite energetic. It's almost like it's floating somewhere. So it's actually a Latin verb that means I am verdant, I'm vigorous, I sprout green growth. And when Vyrao came to me, it came to me after a difficult period in my personal life, and I decided to take a moment out, and I painted my house like, I'm going to say Kermit the Frog green. Like, that's the level of green that I painted my house. There was something that came to me that just said everything, the voice said everything has to be green. Green. So all I heard, green, 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 green. And so here's I am listening to my little intuition, and I painted my house green, and I sat in that house, and that's really when the inspiration came, Vyrao came to me, and the whole vision of Vyrao came to me sitting in my green house. So when I was coming up with the name, we found this name, Vireo, Vyrao, which was the Latin verb. I am verdant, I'm vigorous, I sprout green growth. And I loved the way that it sounded so big. It sounded so energetic, Vyrao. I realized that Vyrao in that spelling was already trademarked for a Viagra company, so I couldn't use that. So then I was like, damn, I really love that word, Vyrao. And I also, it just felt like it was big. It was flying. So then I kind of played with the spelling. I put the Y in, and I changed the E for the A, and it became Vyrao. And people still find it hard to stick and say, but people say Vyrao or Vyrao. They're both right. But yeah, it's a Latin verb for green.
I love it.
It's
What
green.
a great story. I love it. It began with the green.
Yeah.
New rebirth.
Yes.
New growth.
Yes.
My friend, thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thank you.